to play with some data using this program, which is very cool and very fun. And if you're not excited about it, I'll make you excited. So, please give Jewel more attention and respect that he's usually gives and everyone else, because she's here, she's showing you cool things, and so I'll give the floor to her now.
All right.
And can we get a light or two?
Yeah, we can probably show the light.
Remember, when the lights are off, I can see your phone light on your face.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's kind of really fun for me to be here because it was like a decade ago that I was in high school newspaper, not very far from here at Mariner High School. And now I'm here teaching to you guys. So I'm going to go over a little bit just what data journalism is and kind of why you might want to start thinking about it, and then we'll get into how to do it. How many people here are considering a career in journalism? A lot. So you may have heard rumors that print journalism is dying and that it's all about digital, and with that comes the idea that the things you're making for stories are not just, it's not just snap a picture and write some words. People want things that are more interactive. They want things that take full advantage of everything that doing journalism digitally has to offer. So data journalism comes in. So data journalism is all about kind of three things. First, the idea that the story you're making can be based around data, and you might not even know what you're writing about until you look at the data. So today, the data we're going to look at is I have 10 years of football data for your high school. So all of the games, the wins, losses, and what the scores were. So if I were just to ask you guys, like, hey, write me a story about the last 10 years of your guys' football scores, without looking at the data, would you know what the story is there? Have you gotten better? Have you gotten worse? Is there certain years that were really good? And you wouldn't know. And with data, you can start to see where the years were that you might want to investigate further. Did you have a really bad year? Maybe you should look, did the coach get fired that year or something because he was really bad? Did you have a really good year? Was there a kid who got recruited because that year was so good? Those are all kind of things that you can do. Another reason you do data journalism is because you're communicating numerical information that just oftentimes doesn't translate well to text. So you can write about numbers all day long, but just hearing someone like list off a bunch of numbers is kind of boring. So giving something visual for them to do, which is kind of our third thing, which is engaging your audience by getting them to look at graphics, gives them something to hold on to that's a lot more interesting than talking. So here's a couple examples of people who do data journalism to kind of show you how important this is. The New York Times has a really good data journalism blog called The Upshot, and they write about everything from economics to sports to politics, lots of cool stuff there. It's kind of hard to see because of the brightness, but this is a bar chart here. Yeah, it's kind of like completely missing. It's because it's really light gray. Just trust me, it's there. You can see it. It's kind of a little piece of data. Another blog that's really good for data journalism is 538. That's written by a guy named Nate Silver and his team. So Nate Silver wrote a very famous book about data. This is a really cool one too because they do a lot of like interactive stuff. So for example, in this one, he asks you, where's your closest airport and where are you trying to go? And then talking about how you would get there fastest, so which airline and that kind of thing. Quartz is another really good site for that does a lot of data journalism, and they make really simple charts, but they're really effective in the way that what they do is a lot less of these like big data projects and more just like simple charts embedded throughout the story just to make a point as you go through. So you say a little something and you're like, here's a chart that kind of proves that point. Say a little something more, here's a chart that proves that point. That's a really good way to break up big blocks of text, which is sometimes a problem when you're writing stories because people get intimidated when they see like 10 paragraphs of reading they have to do, right? I know I do. And another good one is a website called Vox. They do a lot of good data journalism about all kinds of information, and so that's definitely worth checking out too. So The program that we're going to talk about today, and the people who sent me, Tableau Public. And Tableau Public, you might have heard of Tableau Software, which is our big parent company, and we're based here in Seattle, and we make graph software. The Tableau Public is specifically for journalism. It's free, it's always 100% free. No programming is needed to make things in there. And you have your team, which is me and a couple of my coworkers, that are here to support you as you move through your whole project. So anytime you guys are making something, you can just email us if you get stuck, and we will help you. We also do a thing called Viz of the Day, where we feature visualizations people have made. So it's kind of cool, if you make something that you're really proud of and you send it to us, we might feature it on our website, and you can get more traffic than just your student body, which is kind of cool. This is an example of something I made on Tableau Public using the KEXP playlist. Anyone listen to KEXP here? So I analyzed everything that they played and looked at what their top music was for the year. So I came up with some ideas of things you might want to visualize as high school journalists. So sports data is a really easy one. You can do it for every team you have if you want. I'm going to show you today a website called maxpreps.com that lists all of the data for all your sports. Another thing you could do, which I think you guys have done before, is make polls with Google Forms and just ask your student body questions and get answers. And you can do it on any topic you really want. What's Mountlake Terrace's favorite TV show? What's their favorite music? Or even more serious things, who are they going to vote for this year if they could vote, that kind of thing. Another thing that you might not know is that most places keep data on their demographics. For example, school district demographics, juvenile arrests, voting results. You can get all of that for your city that you live in and for all of Snohomish County. It's all on the website data.wa.gov. You can compare your area to everywhere else in Washington. So if you want to do more political kind of stories, that's a good way to do it. And there's just a million data sets out there. And I find that doing things on things you think are interesting usually just makes it more fun. I like to make a lot of stuff about music. I've made some about Pokemon, which I think is really fun. There's a good Reddit website, the subreddit datasets has a lot of good stuff on there. And also on our website, we have a bunch of sample datasets, which is what I'm going to encourage you to play with later. But let me show you a little bit about how our product works. And then I will try to do this really quickly so that you guys can get a lot of time to play with it on your own. And I'll walk around and make sure if you guys have questions that you can get help. All right. So when you open up Tableau Public, looks like this. So these are things that I was recently working on. And you pick your file to connect to. So your file is either going to be an Excel spreadsheet or a text file like a CSV, which stands for comma separated values. And what I'm working with happens to be a CSV. So I'm going to open that up. See, I have a lot of data sets here. So then Tableau loads all of your data into the software. Your computers are probably faster than mine because they won't buy me a new laptop yet. So it's really slow. Okay. So this is what our data looks like. So the data I got for you guys, and I have it on this thumb drive if anyone wants to play with it later or write a story with it. This is the last decade of your football wins and losses. So we have the date of the game. We have what was the winning score, the losing score, and if it was a win or loss for you guys. We have the location where it was played. Some of them, they just failed to update what the location actually was, so it says TBA, but most of them we have the location. Who your opponent was, the city and state of your opponent, and that's the URL that the data came from. 10 years, yeah. So we have 2004 to 2014. So once our data is loaded in, and it might look slightly different on your screens, you might not get this view because I think you guys have an older version, but this will look pretty much the same. So this is kind of the main part of Tableau. When you're working with making data visualizations in Tableau, there's kind of 3 things you can do. You can make a sheet, which is one singular graph, so just a bar chart, just a pie chart, just one thing. You can make a dashboard, which is when you put multiple chart types all on the same thing, and then you can make them interact with each other. Or you can make a story, which is where you have snapshots of different charts and you're highlighting different features about them. So first, let's make a sheet, and let's talk about what all the data is and why it's where it is. So Tableau divides your data into 2 places, dimensions and measures. So dimensions are qualitative data or things that are just labeled. So it's not anything that's actual numbers, whereas measures are things that are numbers that we're going to do math on. So if you're going to do a sum or an average or something like that, it's going to be in measures. If it's not going to, you're not going to do math on it, then it's a dimension. So that's why it's divided up that way. We also have the rows and columns shelf, so that's where we're going to drag things to make our charts happen. And then this is the marks card, and this is what kind of determines what everything looks like. So let's do a really simple one. Let's just look at the years that we have here. So we'll put date on rows. So those are all the years we have for data. So I told you we have 10 years, 2004 to 2014. Let's look at the number of records. So in this data set, each row or record is a different game. So this is basically a count of the number of games that were played. And I'm going to make this turn into bars here by changing it on the marks card. And now I'm going to put the game result on color. There we go. I'm going to filter out this null here. Null just means that Tableau doesn't understand what that data is. So I think there was one blank row in my data set, so that's why it's null. I can make that just go away all the time. So now we have the orange is a loss and the green is a win. So you guys did pretty good last year. Good job. Definitely improving a lot from those first couple of years.
So are you seeing more games because they were in the playoffs or something like that?
Yep, so it looks like you guys went to a playoff last year. Is that true? Yep, so that's why you got one extra game right there. So this is already we're getting a lot more information than we had just kind of off the top of our heads of what does our football team really look like. Now we know, like, this is the best our football team has been in a decade. Last year was the best they'd been in a decade. By, like, a lot. So. All right. Let's take a look at some other things. So because of the way our data was set up, when I pulled it from Max Preps, so I'm going to show you what Max Preps looks like here. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Get out of my way. So in our data set, we have winning score and losing score. This is the score that the winning team got, and this is the score that the losing team got. The reason it's in 2 different columns like that, instead of just what's your guys' score versus what's the other team's score, is because when it's listed on the Max Preps website, it's always winning score first, losing score next. So we need to make a little calculation to make sure that we know whose score this is. So I'm going to create a calculated field, and I can do that by either just right-clicking here in the data panel, or I could go to analysis and create calculated field. And so these are things, if you want to do like simple calculations, like adding, subtracting, that kind of thing, like for example, a simple calculation I might want to do is the score difference. So if I take the winning score minus the losing score, this will give me a number of how big was the difference in games. So I can go to make all the dates in here, and I'm going to show all of them by clicking this little drop-down menu. Oops. I'm going to click this little drop-down menu here, and I'm going to say I want the exact date, and then I'm going to show the score difference here. Oops, and I actually want this to be discrete. The difference between continuous and discrete is that continuous means it's all one line, whereas discrete, you're looking at different dates. So now you can see what this is showing is how much of a difference there was in the score. And we could put maybe game results on color as well. And yeah, so let's just fit the entire view here so we can get an idea. So you can see like these green lines. This is an awesome game for you guys. You are like winning by over 50. These ones not so much. And we can change the colors too. I think that's actually probably a good idea. What are your guys' school colors? Black and red? All right.
I say black and red.
Do you guys want to do wins as red or as black? Okay.
Actually.
And then we'll do black. All right, there we go. That's cool. And once you change the colors there, it'll change everywhere that it uses that. Okay, so that's one example of a really simple calculation. Now I want a calculation that'll make it so that whenever I see whenever I see the score, it's your guys' score versus the opponent's score. So I'm going to make one that says your score. And this is a bit of a complicated calculation, so when you guys, I won't fault you if you don't remember this later, but you can ask me how to do this while I'm walking around. And so I'm going to say if the game result is a win, then I want this value to be the winning score. So what I'm saying is, if for the game, if you won it, then I want to display the winning score as your score. Else, I want to display the losing score, because if game result isn't set to win, that means you lost. And that means I should show the losing score instead. And yes, I'm recording this too, so you guys can reference this video later. And I'm going to duplicate it and make the same thing for the opponent. And this time I'll just switch it by saying, instead, if you lose, then that means it's the opponent is the one that has the winning score. Okay. So now what we can do is we can, again, let's put all of the dates on there. And let's put your score versus the opponent's score. And let's make these bars instead, because I think those are easier to read. And here's kind of a fun thing we can do is if we reverse this axis, so I'm going to click down here and then say edit it. And I'm going to reverse it. That way 0 starts in the middle. You see that? And it's kind of diverging. So it's kind of easier to tell which one is longer, right? And then we can put the game results. We can put the game result on color again, so that makes it even clearer. So now we get a little kind of like tornado of pain right there, but then you guys start winning later. All right, let's make some other chart types just because we're getting tired of the bars here. So one thing we can do, let's take a look at if we put all the years up here in columns. And I can make little pie charts by changing the marks to being a pie. Make some delicious looking charts here. And I'm going to put the game result on color. And then I'm going to put the number of records on angle. So angle determines how much of the pie is being taken up. So now if we fit the width here, now it's really easy to see year by year, like crappy year, okay year, crappy year, crappy year, crappy year, getting better, oh no, really crappy year, okay, good year. So it's like a really easy summary of everything. Yeah, that was a rough year, you guys. So let's, another fun thing we can do, since we have all of your opponents here, let's take a look at who you play the most and what your records like are against them. So I'm going to put number of records here on columns. I'm going to sort it so that you can see you guys play Linwood, Meadowdale, Shorewood the most because those are in your same district, right? And then we can put the game result on color. If you can see, you guys beat Linwood and Shorewood a lot. Meadowdale, tough for you guys. My school, Mariner, we're kind of, this is where I went. Yeah, this is where I went to high school. I went to Mariner. Huh? Yes, forever. Actually, my best friend's from Kamiak. Yeah, you guys have never won against Jackson. Sorry. So that's kind of a little brief overview of some of the data, and we can start adding them together in a dashboard if we want to make a big story. So the first thing you got to remember, when you're ready to start putting things in your articles and you want them to look nice and look formatted, you got to think about what's your size requirements. So what do you guys blog on? Are you using or what do you publish on? Do you guys know? Do you know how wide things are allowed to be in there if you're putting images in there?
I knew this. I don't remember. I just managed it.
Well, that's an important thing to figure out. It's pretty standard size, is like 650. So I'm going to make this 650 by 650. And now we can start adding some of our things in here. So I'm going to put the different years at the top. So remember those pie charts we made. And if we want to fit them, I can just click on it until you see this gray box around it. Click the drop down and change the fit to the width. That way I can see all of them at the same time. Underneath that, I might want to put maybe the scores for all the games. And you know, since these are all individual games, one thing I might want to do is add who the opponent was in the tooltip. So yeah, so the tooltip is what happens when you hover. So now it says who our opponent is. And we can make this look really nice by clicking on the button here. I'm going to make it say the opponent, and I'll say versus that, and we'll make it nice and big. The result, and all that stuff. So now, whenever we hover over these bars, we can see who it was against. Cool. So we have that. And let's put one more sheet in here. Let's put all of the different schools. I'm going to float this. So when you are adding things to dashboards, you'll notice, did you see when I was adding things, how everything just kind of snapped to a grid and automatically resized? The reason it does that is because I'm adding things as tiled, but on dashboards you can also make things floating. Like if I click this drop down right here and make this floating, that means I can drag it around and put it anywhere I want. So I'm going to put my legend right down here so that it's not taking up all this room. I'm going to move these so that they have a little more room. And we can give these titles a little bit of more descriptive titles than just sheet 4. So let's call this wins and losses by year. And we'll call this scores by game. And we'll call this opponents. Now, one thing that's cool when you start adding things on a dashboard is that you can make these charts interact with each other. So if I click on all my pie charts up here, and I click on the drop-down menu and say use as filter, now if I click on a year, say I want to see this really crappy year in 2007, I can click that, and you see how those bottom two charts change? So now I can see all of the games that were played just that year. Oh, wait, where'd it go? There we go. So that's all the games that were played in 2007. You can see there's only one game you won. It was against Shorewood. Everyone else you lost. And you can see that game, at least when you beat them, like it was a shutout. So something. But you can also look at different years. So we can look at a year that was more half and half. You can look at this last year that was really good. If you are, wanting to remember history a little abridged, you can look at just the wins. If you click on just the red parts, that'll be just the wins. All right. So once you're ready, once you think like, okay, this is something that I think my readers will like and I'm ready to share it, all you have to do is go to File and you save to Tableau Public. And anyone who publishes on Tableau Public has a little account, which gives them a profile, which is kind of cool because it's like a portfolio of your data viz work. So if you are looking to do journalism later on, if you start building your Tableau portfolio right now, you can say like, look, I've been doing data journalism for like 5 years already. Here's all the stuff I did in high school. So now we can call this, we'll name it MTHS Football, and hit save. So now Tableau is uploading everything, all of these graphics and all the data that we put in here up into the web. And everything that we were just doing in the program, so clicking on things and making it filter, all of that will be in the end product. So it's loading here in my browser. Okay. Almost done. Sorry, my internet's really slow because I'm tethered to my phone. And there it is. So there's our whole dashboard that we just made. And you can see that like the tooltips we made earlier, they're here. And this is like a page on the internet that you can share with anyone. That same filtering that we did before, I can still do that. And from here, if we go down to the bottom and we click share, we have a couple options. We could just share just the link. So if you wanted to bring people just to this page on Tableau Public, just to look at the visualization, like if you're not embedding it into a story or something, you can just share the link or tweet it or Facebook it. But you're also given an embed code here. And this embed code works just like a YouTube embed code. So anywhere you kind of can put a YouTube embed code, you can basically put this one. And you can just copy this and put it in your website. So I'll go to my website here just so that you can kind of see what that process looks like. So I run a blog just of data visualizations that I make. And mine is based on WordPress. I'm going to log into my WordPress blog here. And all I have to do is make a new post. Yeah, WordPress is real friendly. And I'm going to change it to text, which makes it add HTML tags. And I can just paste that code we had right in here. Ooh, come on. There we go. So now if we preview this, cool, so there's my blog. Oh, it didn't work. And I did it wrong. A lot of crap in here. There we go. Try this again. That looks more promising. There we go. So there it is, and that's what it looks like when it's embedded. You can see it's just the dashboard, and then our little, once it's done loading here. And then it has this little toolbar at the bottom that people can share from. So that's pretty much it. So I'm going to kind of turn you guys loose and let you play with this your own. So you have a couple options for data that you want to use. If you go to the Tableau Public website, which is just public.tableau.com, and go to resources, we have some sample data sets here that you can play with. So, because you guys don't have to all work on the same data set I just did if you aren't interested. So I have some ones in here that I think are extra fun to work with. So the top baby names in the U.S., that one's really good. So that's every #1 name for every state since 1910. Cat versus dog popularity in the U.S., that one's pretty cool. I use that one a lot for, we have some more depressing ones about disease and stuff. We've got some sports ones. And I have that football data set on this thumb drive if anyone wants to use that as well. I just have the Pokemon index up here and some movie set stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff on here. So you have to use any of those data sets or not the football one, we can give that to you too. That's it. Thanks for paying attention. Go make data stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I'll put the data set there. It'll be on our blog, so just go to the Tableau Public website and hit on blog, and I'll post it probably tomorrow. All right. Any other questions before I turn you guys loose? Nope. All right. Go make stuff.